Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Saturday night. Massive matchup. Tennessee heading on the road to play Oklahoma. Now, we've taken a look at this matchup from a ton of different angles over the last couple of days, and within 24 hours before we're kicking the football off, I'm going to take a look at a Tennessee perspective and talk about some pathways that we see for Tennessee to win this football game against Oklahoma. And I think we can just be straight up about this. I think Oklahoma fans would certainly agree with this take as well. And you're sitting here 24 hours before kickoff and say there's a lot more pathways for Tennessee to win this football game than Oklahoma. One, there's a reason that they're 7-point favorites going on the road to Norman. I think, secondly, the first three games of the season, I think Tennessee has looked much more impressive than Oklahoma. That being said, Tennessee fans certainly aren't overlooking this football game. We all know how hard it is to go on the road to Norman, Oklahoma, and win at night in the first SEC matchup in this program's history. Like, it's still going to be a very, very good game, but we're sitting here looking at different pathways for these teams to win and say, hey, Tennessee's got a lot more pathways. There's a lot of matchups that on paper right now favor this Tennessee program. Want to get into some of those matchups, talk about where we see Tennessee having a lot of success against Oklahoma. Now, before we get into it, as always, just want to say thank you to you guys. It's truly been a blast talking this matchup for the last couple of days. The amount of support y'all have shown the boys, it's been amazing. Whether you're a Tennessee fan, an Oklahoma fan, just a college football fan, would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into this one. I think the biggest storyline in this football game is the line of scrimmage play. Yeah, everybody wants to talk about Josh Heupel coming back to Norman. Everybody wants to talk about the two young quarterbacks that are some of the more talented quarterbacks that we see in the country in Jackson Arnold and Nico. Look, all great storylines. All what makes this game, at least in my mind as a college football fan, so exciting to watch. That being said, I think the biggest storyline in this football game is line of scrimmage play. You look historically at how SEC matchups are determined. It's normally determined in the trenches. And I think right now, like, Tennessee has the massive advantage in terms of line of scrimmage play heading into this football game, specifically on the defensive side of the football. So the number one pathway for Tennessee to win this football game, I think, starts with stopping the run. You look at Tennessee on the year against the run, only allowing 1.6 yards per carry. That's number three in the country. And what makes Tennessee so good at stopping the run, they're good pretty much at all three levels in terms of stopping the run, right? It starts on the inside of the defensive line. I think they got legit NFL dudes on the inside. They got edge rushers that play the run extremely well, and then really good linebacker play. And so when you have a front seven that's as dominant as Tennessee is in the front seven, you kind of think that favors Tennessee, especially when you look at Oklahoma and say, throughout the first three games, Oklahoma hasn't played juggernauts in terms of front seven play, but they've still struggled to get that run game going, only averaging 4.3 yards per carry. That's 61st in the country. Now, why is stopping the run so big for Tennessee in this football game? Because Oklahoma has been brutal on third downs. I mean, they're 90th in the country in third down conversion rate. Jackson Arnold hasn't necessarily found his rhythm pushing the ball down the field. So when this Oklahoma team loses on first and second down, they're struggling to pick it up on third down because that downfield passing attack hasn't been all that great. Jackson Arnold, 2 of 13, pushing the ball 20 plus yards down the field. Now, will it potentially get better with Nick Anderson getting inserted into this wide receiver lineup? Yeah, absolutely. But if you're Tennessee and say, all right, this Oklahoma team has struggled to stop or struggled to get the run game going, and then they've struggled to convert on third downs, our number one priority when we're on the field on the defensive side of the football is to stop the run and force this Oklahoma team into some of those third and long situations. I think that funnels us in right to the second storyline, another matchup that I think massively favors Tennessee, and that is the pass rush. And I think what makes Tennessee's pass rush so special, and again, one of the more under talked about concepts or ideas around this Tennessee team is it's not just James Pierce on the outside rushing the passer. You look on the inside and say guys like Norman Lott, 27.8% pass rush win rate on the year throughout the first three games. Mari Thomas, you got Josh Josephs on the other side, Tyree West. They have so many different pass rushers that can do so many different things. And you look at this Oklahoma offensive line, it's been no secret it has struggled massively. in the first 3 games. Now you've seen, and why I kind of say find your matchups in the pass rush, you've seen spot duty performances from Oklahoma on the offensive line, but you haven't really seen a consistent starting five that has really always played together well. And kind of what I mean by that is there's weak links on this Oklahoma offensive line. So if you're Tennessee and you win on first and second down and you get them into obvious third and long passing situations, you're mixing up your fronts. You're trying to find your matchups, whether it's James Pierce and a guy like Michael Tarquin, whether it's a guy on the inside like Norman Lott working on an interior offensive lineman where they are, playing with the backup center, where they are shuffling the deck on the inside of the offensive line. If you're Tennessee, if you can stop the run on first and second down and then force Oklahoma into these third and long situations where, for lack of better terms, you can get creative in terms of how you want to use all of these pass rushers. Look, Tennessee's got 5, 6 guys that are going to be playing in the NFL on the defensive line. Like, find your matchups in that pass rush. And I think Tennessee can have a lot of success on the defensive side of the football. Now, going over to the offense, one of the bigger storylines that I think coming into this game is, look, Tennessee's been a run heavy offense, and they've had a ton of success doing so. How good is this Tennessee rushing attack going to be against an Oklahoma front seven that I think is legit? I think it's one of the better units, not only in the SEC, but in the country. That's kind of the overarching question, right? Can Tennessee run the football as much and as effectively as they've had the first 3 games? I think the answer is probably no. And I think Tennessee can certainly have success running the football. I think they're one of the best rushing attacks that we see in the country. Elite offensive line, a quarterback that certainly can make it happen, and some really talented running backs. That being said, I don't think Tennessee's running the football 70% of the time for 7.1 yards per carry like they've had the first 3 games of the season. And so the question is, when it's time for Nico to win this game through the air, can he? I think a lot of Tennessee fans, I certainly have a ton of confidence that Nico can. How are you going to do it? I think one of the very intriguing matchups in this football game is you look at this Oklahoma defense, they are very aggressive, especially with the linebackers, right? Headlined by Danny Stutzman, that I think is probably the best linebacker in the country. When he sees run, he is triggering downhill and trying to fill gaps and make his plays at or behind the line of scrimmage. 18 run stops on the year and averaged up the tackle of inside of a yard. And so you look at Tennessee, what they could have success with in this passing attack, I should say, is some of that RPO game where you're showing handoff and the linebackers are firing downhill, and then you're kind of throwing it over their head. That's kind of the recipe for Tennessee. What makes this Tennessee offense so hard to stop is, one, if you want to stop the run, you got to be really aggressive to stop the run. But if you're going to allocate bodies and play as aggressive against the run, you can throw the football over these teams' heads. And that's kind of what Tennessee can do. Now, Nico is normally going to the middle of the field in the passing attack, right? Over 50% of his attempts on the season so far have been between the numbers. If you can suck these linebackers in and then throw it over the top, that's kind of the recipe for Tennessee in this passing attack. And again, these safeties for Oklahoma, they're aggressive. So if you can kind of get that intermediate passing game going, get these safeties kind of squeezing down a little bit, that's when you want to hit the big ball to a guy like Dante Thornton on the outside. Those are kind of the 3 things that I'm looking at for Tennessee to win this football game. So if we're sitting here, late Saturday night and we're breaking down this football game, I think the 2 things that or maybe 3 things that we're looking at is, one, how is Oklahoma running the football? I would be surprised if they have a ton of success in this football game. I think the second thing we're looking at is, what does the pass rush look like? Not necessarily in terms of how many sacks Tennessee has, but what do the win rates look like? What do the pressures look like? Because I think Tennessee can stop the run, force Oklahoma into those third and long situations, and then really turn the heat up on Jackson Arnold. I think, secondly, how good does this Tennessee team run the football, and how well can they get it going through the air? That's kind of what I'm looking at in this football game. Again, it's going to be a really good game. We're going to find out a lot about this Tennessee team. I think we found out a lot about them when they played NC State and blew the doors off them. This is a little bit of a different matchup. I think Oklahoma has a little bit of a different caliber athlete that NC State does. You're going on the road in Nico's, first really hostile road start. So we're going to find out a lot about Nico and this Tennessee offense as well. We'll close it out there. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. Again, would love to hear from y'all in the comments section. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all